All right, so it's kind of funny too. I had a laugh as I was going through and doing some research on you. I saw that your mom bought you your first drum set. When you were young.
Oh, yeah.
It was like $14, and I was just like, wow, how times have changed, right?
Yeah, it was right out of a Sears catalog. So, yeah, that is kind of weird. I guess that was probably 1973. I shouldn't even have said that. A long time ago.
I remember going through the Sears Christmas catalog every year and just staring at guitars, hoping and waiting for Santa Claus to bring me one.
Yeah, back in those days, getting a drum catalog or something like that, was a big thing. You knew every page, all that stuff. Well, cool, man.
Too funny. Yeah. So, it's one thing, too, like, you're one of them guys that ends up playing around a lot with different bands, like, between Saints Warning, Sebastian Bach, where it's almost become the norm now, like, with all the bands, and, like, everybody's got, like, different things going on, but you've kind of done that, like, your whole career now.
Well, what's weird? I wasn't playing, I guess, my first start was, Juggernaut, and then I went with Riot from kind of 88 to 98, and I was in and out of the band, but I wasn't really doing anything else with any, popular bands, I guess you would say, recording bands.
Right.
But during that time, I wasn't playing with anybody else. And then when I joined Halford in 2000, I started getting calls to do other things, whether it was just a record or whatever it might be, or a show here or there. And then I ended up starting to play with different bands, different artists or whatever. But I remember seeing guys do that before me, and I thought it was very strange to play with 2 or 3 different bands. I was like, why is this guy playing with 2 or 3 different bands? And the music is very similar. It makes no sense to me, But as I got, like, the offers or whatever it was, and then when you get a little older and you're having to pay bills and that sort of thing, and one band isn't working, it just seems like it's like, well, I could do this for a while, but I remember thinking it was really strange when I saw other people doing it, and then it started happening to me, and I was just like, well, this is the way you kind of make some money, if you're a hired guy like I had been, for most of my career. Is when you're not working, you're not making any money. So
yeah, it's true. So hooking up with Halford, pretty much, it sounds like you're saying, like, just changed your whole musical career.
Sure. Yeah. Before that, I had the Riot. I was playing with Riot for a lot of years, and I had a pretty good catalog of material, which really helped me get the Halford gigs, because when they were looking for drummers for Halford, my name came up. They were looking for, like, okay, what do you have, and I sent, 3 or 4 CDs, and I sent videotape and footage and all that kind of stuff, and then, I was one of the few guys that got to audition for that gig, and I got that because I sort of had a catalog, I had something that I was doing at that point. I think that's important, you have to, a lot of guys are wondering how you get the break, that sort of thing. And it's like, man, it took me years. So it's, like you have to have something to show people, that's within that same genre, that really works for that artist, where he can look at that, or they can say, you know what, this guy can do this with that, he can do this for us, that sort of thing. And I think that was kind of important. And plus I had some good contacts at the time, at that point. Roy Z, who was Halford's producer, was talking to me about doing stuff with him like a couple of years before that. And so I was recommended by Roy, and a friend of mine, Chris Leivenguk, who's a writer, also recommended me. So it was one of those things where, I got the big break, I guess, with Halford, and I had minor endorsements with companies and that sort of thing before Halford. But yeah, as soon as that came in, it was like I got the stick endorsement, I got the heads, I got the drums, I got the the cymbals, I got the whole thing. So yeah, things changed a little bit.
was it kind of mind blowing to you? Like, where's this all been like all my career? And now all of a sudden, it's like here it is, like the phone's ringing off the hook.
Yeah, I mean it was cool, and I mean I grew up with the early stuff, the earlier priests like Sad Wings of Destiny and Stained Glass and After Sin, Hellbent for Leather, all that stuff. So I mean I would never dreamed it in a million years that I would get a gig playing with Rob, and yeah, it was awesome,
That's awesome. Now I guess you recently just did the touring with Sebastian.
Yeah, I just got back yesterday. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Well, I got back. We did 30 shows. It was like 6 weeks. Then we came home for about 4 or 5 days, and then we went out and did a one-off. And I came home yesterday from that. So yeah, it's a lot of work with Sebastian this summer, which is great.
Now, how much of a different environment is it when you're working with somebody like Sebastian compared to where you're doing with Fates Warning?
I mean, you mean like musically or the environment or how?
The whole package. I mean, because I just figure Sebastian is like, he just seems like he's on go 24/7. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's different. I mean, Sebastian is a great front man, so he dictates sort of everything that happens on stage, and the set list and how things run, that sort of thing. And I watch him. He's the focus, at all times.
Right.
And I've been playing with Sebastian for 11 years, so I've learned, kind of. And it took me a few years to actually figure him out, to know what he needs when he, whether it's a little bump in tempo on a song or something, or if he needs, me to watch him on for certain cues or whatever. I know where he's going to go, pretty much. I mean, but he still surprises me, of course. But every once in a while, something that he throws in there. But so I've learned to kind of work with him, and it's great for a drummer or any musician to work with somebody like that. That keeps you on your toes. Where Fates Warning is more like a well-oiled machine where everybody knows what we're doing, that at all points, and it's a lot more low key, of course, because we're very similar in temperament and sort of musical, backgrounds and all that. We're all very similar. Me and Jim, Joey, and Ray, and also Mike, the new guitar player that's been working with us. So there's a little bit of difference, but I've learned to sort of adapt with whoever I'm working with over the years. Whether it's working with an artist like Sebastian or Rob, or working with within a band context where it's like Riot or Fates Warning.
Right. Very cool. So the new album for Fates Warning is getting ready to come out July 1st. It's called Series of Flight. And it's pretty wild. Like, I'm going through and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, the opening song, From the Rooftops. It was like real, like mellow in the opening, and it was almost like I kept thinking to myself of the Sirius XM channel, like watercolors. I just kept picturing that. I was like,
what were you thinking of? What?
There's a channel on Sirius XM called Watercolors, and I think it's like
really. I have to check that out.
It's like a real relaxing music, and that's what I was picturing. I'm like, it sounds like something on watercolors, and I was getting like real relaxed and all. But then it kicked in, but I was just like, wow, okay, this is cool. I'm digging it.
Yeah, it's funny when somebody else listens to something that you've done and you've kind of lived with. It's funny because you don't know what people think when they hear it, because you sort of we're so much in the infancy of the creating it, and I'm sure it's weird, I wish, I could put myself in that place where I'm listening to something the same way everybody else listens to it. But that song, for instance, is really it was really unique because that particular song I wrote all the drum parts to. Almost like 95% of it was written on the drums, and I sent a bunch of stuff to Jim. I sent him like 12, like just beats and parts and stuff, and he wrote the song around that. And for that very first section, the thing that you're mentioning, the watercolors thing, he just had specific guidelines. He was like, accent on the end of two, make it sort of toms, kind of a little mellowish, not so heavy, but accent on the end of two. So I was just thinking 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, and I came up with 3 different parts for that, and that's the one he chose. That particular, that was the part that he said, yeah, I like that one or whatever. So it's interesting because, it could have been any one of the parts or maybe something else, and then the way it sort of turns out. And I was, when he came up with when he actually showed, sent it back to me of the stuff that he was working on, and I thought it was so cool, and then Ray sounds so amazing opening up the record. So, yeah, it's kind of it's crazy. I mean, I guess listening to it as a listener and then hearing that front for the first minute or so, or minute or two, and then it finally kicks in. I'm sure it's a little, like takes you back a little bit, where you're like, wow, it's, when it kicks in, it's full out. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Now, is that the first single off the album as well?
I'm not sure of that. We're shooting some videos for couple of the other songs, and so I'm not actually sure at this point what is going to be the focus, but we did put a lyric video out for from the rooftops. So, but there's plans for some other releases. So I guess we'll all just have to wait and see.
Yeah, that's what because I saw the lyric video, so I was wondering if that was going to be the first single.
Yeah. No. The cool thing is Inside Out has some ideas for, like doing a couple of other releases. So I think it's going to be, something where people can just kind of figure out what they like. The album is really diverse as far as, there are some shorter songs, which, a couple of things which maybe, people would perceive as being a little more straighter. And then there's a couple of things that I think that are amazing on the record. Some of the later songs, that Light and Shade, and then Home, the one, I think that there's just some great other things that people that are true Fates Warning fans are gonna really dig.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was gonna say too. Like, going through the new album, like almost basically every song on the album could be a single. And even like you have 2 songs on the album that are 10 minutes long, and even at 10 minutes long, they could be singles. You know what I mean? It's a very, like you said, diversified album.
Right. Very much so.
Yeah.
That's what's that?
Yeah. No, I was going to say, like, when you're doing 2 songs in the album that are like 10 minutes long, do you kind of contemplate pulling one off and saying, all right, maybe that's too much, or do you just say, like, you know what, that's Fate's Warning, and that's what our fans would expect?
I think, I'm not sure exactly where Jim is heading when he's writing the songs, but I think there are songs where there's messages, where he's, especially the song Ghosts of Home, where it's about, something that he feels that's close to him or whatever. And I think when there's a message that, he wants to put out there, I think that the song just dictates how long it's going to be based upon the message, that that you're conveying or the story you're telling. So I think that's kind of where it goes. And, so who knows, but I think it's, Fate's Warning has always been about that, where the songs, there are some of the shorter songs that are a little more to the point, and the songs that are longer, that have a longer story or message. But, the cool thing is the band has never been about, just playing for the sake of playing. It's all within the song. And I really dig that about the band is, the musicianship is within the songs,
Right.
So it's, that's
cool.
To me, it's a band that, like I can get into the songs and then I can get into the musicianship as a player.
Right. Now, how about again with a 10-minute song, when you're doing that live, is there times you're thinking in your head oh man, I need a breath of air? Because playing nonstop for 10 minutes is a long time.
Yeah, no, I don't think that at all. I mean, when I look at it on the set list, if we're playing something live, I look at it mainly if, to me, if there's difficult parts in the song, and I'm like, oh God, no, this song's hard for me to play. That I think that, it's not the length of the song. I just think of if the song is going to be am I going to get it through this, this part here where I'm not going to, where I'm going to play it really cleanly, or am I going to mess it up a little bit and have to, find my way out, that sort of thing. I think anytime you play difficult music, it's like that, where, there are these challenges, and it makes it sort of exciting, and then at the end of the night when you play something and you play it great and you're like, well, that was amazing, or whatever. And sometimes when you don't play it so great, you can kind of kick yourself a little bit, or, and you say, well, there's the next show, Now,
how about, are you guys going to be doing any touring for the album, or?
Yeah, they're working on some things right now. The main focus right now is getting the record out and the videos and stuff like that. But, yeah, we're working on it. And hopefully, like the last record, Darkness in a Different Light, we can go out there and, do a lot of touring on the record. We went, actually on that record, we went out and we did a U.S. tour, and then did Europe, and then we took a little break and then went out again and sort of did the same thing and played some different songs from the record. So that was kind of cool. So hopefully we'll have, a good touring cycle where we can, get out and really promote it.
Cool. Now, how about you? What's your plans looking like for the rest of 2016? Any more with Sebastian, or?
Yeah, Sebastian has some things. He has his book that's coming out sometime in the next couple of months, and I know he's going to be out there promoting that. But we have some other things that are in the works for a little later in the year, and so there'll be more touring for Sebastian. And I'm not sure about a new record or anything like that at this point, but just, getting back out there and playing some dates, which, is always great.
Sure, absolutely.
But I would definitely recommend, if people like what the band does. It's an amazing record. I'm really proud of this one.
Yeah, I can back you up. It's a really awesome album, and you can go right to the Fates Warning website, fateswarning.com, and you can pre-order it now. And also too, I think I saw there was a
Jim and Ray put together acoustic versions of some of the songs, and some covers, and that's really cool too. I mean, Ray sounds so amazing on this record, and Jim always, does great with those sort of things as far as arrangements, for Ray. And I was really surprised when I heard the acoustic versions of the songs. I think that's really a cool extra disc for people to get, in addition to,
cool.
The great record that we all did together.
Nice. And actually, there's a vinyl one too, or it'll be a double LP.
Cool.
Yeah,
that would be nice too.
Cool. And the last thing before I let you go, if you can just cut an ID for me. This is Bobby Jarzombek. Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm. Jarzombek, yep.
And you're Jarzombek. And you're listening to Totally Driven Radio.
Okay. Hello out there. This is Bobby Jarzombek from Fate's Warning, and you're listening to Totally Driven Radio.